This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutastrophe and welcome you to a birthday boy for January the 8th. Now, normally I wouldn't go so morbid and have a birthday boy be someone who's actually dead. But given the fact that I've done 3 baseball players in the first 7 days of the month, I wanted to change up sport. I could have went with Jan8. I could have went up with Jeff Francis, but I went with Dwight Clark. Now, as people should know, or probably don't know, Dwight Clark is dead. Dwight Clark died in June of 2018. But anyway, I will talk about Dwight Clark, and then I will talk about my NFL predictions for Wildcard Weekend. So, Dwight Clark played 9 years for the San Francisco 49ers from 79 to 87, winning 2 Super Bowls. He didn't play for any other team, which was crazy. And of course, he's famously known for one particular play in particular. Clark was selected in the 10th round, back when the NFL had 10 rounds instead of 7 rounds. So the 10th round in the 79 NFL draft by the Niners. Ironically, the same draft that Joe Montana was taken in, and people passed on him left, right, and center. Dwight Clark went to the University of Clemson and he got drafted just before Clemson won the national title in 1980. And yes, Clemson won a national title in a year other than the 2010s. He was GM of the Niners from 95 to 98, and he was the first ever Cleveland Browns general manager from 99 to 2001. So basically, his first love was quarterback. However, he was moved to wide receiver because Clemson had recruited 4 other quarterbacks. He was made to be a strong safety, but he didn't like it. And he actually wanted to leave Clemson to go back to his hometown, Charlotte, and try to transfer to Appalachian State to play basketball. But he was allowed to play offense. So he was a backup wide receiver and finished with 5 receptions. As a junior, he was made starter at wide receiver. It was part of the team that qualified Clemson to the Gator Bowl, its first bowl game in 18 years, in which I believe that was the year. Was that the year or no? No, sorry, that wasn't it. But anyway, to the Gator Bowl, the first time in 18 years. He got a touchdown. However, as a senior, he was part of the Clemson team in 1978 that were 11-1 and got the Gator Bowl over Ohio State, which was one of the biggest wins in school history up to that point. Of course, and they finished 6th in the AP poll, which is pretty good. And he made a big touchdown catch to beat Maryland to win Clemson the ACC title. So the Tigers were 11-1. That 78 season was the year, and that was the Gator Bowl when Charlie Ballman intercepted an artfully stripped pass and ran out of bounds and right into Woody Hayes' path, and Woody Hayes punched Ballman. It's kind of weird how, ABC broadcast that game and Keith Jackson and his color commentator didn't really comment on it. Was Keith Jackson just trying not to draw attention to it? Probably. So anyway, he wore number 30 at Clemson. Oh, that. San Francisco decided to pick him in the 10th round of the 79 NFL draft. They had the first pick of that round because San Francisco had the number 1 overall pick. I think they had the overall pick, number 179. I don't remember if they did or not. Even though some people in the organization questioned the selection, he was basically much better off as a undrafted free agent and all that. No, San Francisco traded their first overall pick to Buffalo, and Buffalo got Tom Cousino from Ohio State. I wonder how that happened. That was kind of strange. But yeah. The funny thing about that 79 NFL draft is that Tom Cousino didn't want to play in Buffalo. He'd rather play for the CFL, which was weird. Well, obviously, nowadays it would be really weird. But the CFL was more financially stable in the 1980s than in the early 80s, I should say, than what it is today, sadly enough. So anyway, Bill Walsh, who was made head coach of the Niners, actually visited Clemson to scout quarterback Steve Fuller, Clark's roommate. Clark actually answered the phone and was convinced to participate as Fuller's pass catcher at the workout, where Walsh was impressed with the receiving skills. The Niners were really terrible at all that. They were 2-14 in 78 and 79, but they won 2 Super Bowls in the 1980, 82 and 85. Dwight Clark didn't take part in the 1989 or 90 Super Bowl. But anyway, Clark looked good. Clark tallied 506 catches in his 9-year career for 48 touchdowns and made 2 Pro Bowls. However, Dwight Clark will always be remembered as the guy with that famous catch in the 1981 NFC title game on home turf at Candlestick Park against the Dallas Cowboys. The Niners were down 27-21 with 58 seconds to play. On 3rd and 3, Clark leaped. He used his 6'4" frame to snatch the ball as it was sailing close to being out of bounds from Joe Montana at the back of the end zone to tie the score. Ray Wersching's extra point got the Niners up 20-27. Now remember, what people forget is that the game was not over. People always forget that Dallas had a drive going near the 50-yard line, but Danny White made a massive fumble for Dallas. So that, if memory serves me correctly, oh no, sorry, I was going to say this was the 3rd straight time Dallas had lost in the NFC title game, but that's wrong because the 1980 NFC title game, well, 79-80, was Rams Buccaneers. So yeah. So this was the 2nd straight year Dallas lost in the NFC title game. They would lose again the next year to Washington. And have 3 straight NFC title game losses that the Eagles of 02, 03, in 2002, 2003, 2004 in the NFC title games. Those 3 NFC title games they all lost, but they won the next one. Clark decided to retire after 9 seasons, and the Niners retired his number just a year after he retired. He was a team exec for the Niners when he resigned to become the GM of the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately, though, Dwight Clark didn't really make a lot of good GM spots. I mean, it was an expansion team and all that. Yeah. This is amazing. All that. So yeah, Dwight Clark was fine. He dated a Miss Universe, but later married Ashley Stone and had 3 kids. Dwight Clark sadly had ALS, aka Lou Gehrig's disease, March of 2017. But he died June 4th, 2018. So anyway, it was just sad. You know, the most famous catch, one of the most famous catches in the 1980s, Dwight Clark. So, Dwight Clark aside, here we go with some NFL stuff. So, the first wildcard game this week will be the Indy Colts and the Buffalo Bills. Of course, this is being taped on January 8th. So, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, the Bills will host the Colts. First home playoff game in more than 2 decades. The Colts have Philip Rivers, who basically told the LA Chargers that your problems were not with me, your problems were with the players around me. So basically, he led the Colts to a fantastic season with Andrew Luck retiring and, of course, all that. So Philip Rivers went to the Colts. The Colts didn't win the division. They were close, but 11-5, they're pretty good. But they get the 13-3 Buffalo Bills. Surprised? I'm surprised at how good Buffalo was. I thought, okay, maybe Buffalo might win the division with Brady out of the lineup, out of New England. But yeah, they were 13-3. I was shocked. 7-1 at home, 6-2 on the road. One of those 3 losses was avoidable, obviously, with that Hail Mary by Arizona. I cringed at that. But the question on everyone's lips, can the Buffalo Bills beat the Indianapolis Colts? I think they can. You're playing in Buffalo. You're playing in cold weather. Indy is kind of cold weather, but they play in a dome, kind of. I know they have their stadium is open air, but you don't want an open air in the cold or all that, do you? So anyway, I say Buffalo will somehow beat Indianapolis. The second game on Saturday will be the Rams and the Seahawks over in the NFC. Bitter division rivals, the Rams and Seahawks fought tooth and nail a couple of times. Rams beat the Cardinals on the final day of the year to get into the playoffs, even though Jared Goff got hurt. But Goff might be back. But I know Seattle at home, the 12th man, even though that there's no fans because of COVID, they're still got good home field stuff. I say Seattle will sneak past the Rams. And lastly, will be Tampa versus Washington on Saturday. Well, everyone knows Washington 7-9, worst record for division winners since the 2010 Seattle Seahawks. But remember, the 2010 Seahawks did win their home game against the defending Super Bowl champion Saints. And when Carolina went 7-8 and won the NFC South, for some reason, they won their game against Arizona on home turf. Unfortunately, even though Alex Smith is a strong player, and I think he's going to become back a player of the year because of what happened with his leg and almost had it amputated. He almost died. I like Alex Smith, though, but in the end, it's Tom Terrific. And I don't think Washington can do it this time. I'm going to go with Tampa. Why not? All right, so that's Saturday. Now on to Sunday. And the first game on Sunday will be the Titans facing the Ravens. The Titans won the NFC South. That's why they get the home game against the Ravens. This is too close to call. This is definitely one of the tightest things I had to think of. I know Tennessee's got Derrick Henry, who's a big rusher, and Baltimore's got their defense, and Lamar Jackson, who's pretty good and all that. And I also know the Titans went into Baltimore in the divisional round last year and beat them. Will we see a repeat? Well, given the fact that I think what goes around comes around. With that fury, I'm going to go with Baltimore. Close, but it'll be Baltimore. I say what goes around comes around. Tennessee won in Baltimore last year at the playoffs. Baltimore will do the same in Tennessee this year. And then you got yourself the Bears and the Saints. How the Bears made the playoffs, I don't know. Like, frig. They're so inconsistent. There is zero chance I'm going to go against Drew Brees in New Orleans. So I'm going to go with the Saints. And then finally, you got yourself the Browns and Steelers. The Browns, Sunday night primetime. First playoff appearance in 19 years, breaking the longest NFL postseason drought. Not the longest drought in the Big Four sports. Seattle Mariners have that, 2001. But yeah, it's a Cleveland Browns. They've always been shat upon and all that. Unfortunately, I see nothing but stars because Pittsburgh at home, I think Pittsburgh at home is just as dangerous as Cleveland is at home. I say Pittsburgh will somehow win, but remember the only time the Cleveland Browns made the playoffs in their expansion / rebirth. Pittsburgh came back from a massive deficit to beat the Cleveland Browns on home turf. I think Cleveland will have a lead, but probably like 7 to 10 points, and then Pittsburgh's going to come back to win the game. I don't see Cleveland winning in Pittsburgh. And Juju Smith-Schuster is right. They're the same old Browns. Same old Browns philosophy. Let's go with Pittsburgh. So, to summarize, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and the AFC. Which, if it means anything, that means Baltimore will head to Kansas City and Pittsburgh will have to head to Buffalo. Could we see Buffalo in the Super Bowl for a 5th time? And in the NFC, it's Tampa, New Orleans, and Seattle, which means Tampa is the only road team would go to Green Bay, and New Orleans will host Seattle in the NFC divisional round. Will Tom Terrific win over Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay? I don't know. Well, that's what's going to happen. Hopefully that's what happens. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.